To finish off our series on nutritional issues, we're going to look more at malnutrition. Now, malnutrition can be looking at too many and too few nutrients. So let's take a look and see what we have. So again, malnutrition. It's not just not enough, but it can be simply improper nutrition. It can be having too many nutrients or not having enough nutrients. It can be from a lack of food, just not having any food to eat. It could be from being a picky eater and only eating certain foods. Or it could be from diseases where you're just not hungry to eat, or it's difficult or very hard to eat. Any of these can cause problems in malnutrition. Now, in the case of malnutrition for overweight, that's what you're looking at for more obesity and all the problems that have been described for that. Looking into high blood pressure, looking at hypertension, cardiovascular disease, and the whole myriad of other problems. We're not going to go back through that because that was from previous videos. But let's move on to underweight. We've touched on this a little bit before, but let's expand a little more. Now, in underweight, normally the nutritional deficiencies are present because just not getting enough. Iron deficiency anemia is also usually present, just again because it's not enough. But other things that can be problematic. Hormone imbalances can be present because not enough proteins and components to build the hormones. Could be delayed wound healing, again, not enough components to heal properly. As well as other chronic diseases, things like osteoporosis. In that case, not enough calcium or vitamin D. So all of these underweight issues aren't always present all together, but any one of those could be present or any combination. Now, sometimes this underweight aspect is due to eating disorders. Now, it's not always the case because some eating disorders aren't underweight. But let's start with the eating disorder of anorexia nervosa. Now, anorexia nervosa, we've mentioned in previous videos, but let's get a little more into what the details are in this illness. Now, it's classified as a psychiatric illness. Psychiatric illness because one's obsessing about their weight to where it becomes problematic. It can cause extreme nutrient inadequacies in that individual. The person just doesn't have adequate nutrients to have anything they need to have for the body to function. Normally, individuals that have this illness are eating less than 1,000 calories per day. And a lot of times with that, they're also exercising excessively. So not even having close to enough calories and then burning off more than normal can cause some severe nutrient deficiencies. But they haven't figured out exactly what causes this. They think that there's genetic links because they find it runs in families. But they're also looking at more of a social economic impact because, interestingly enough, they found there's a high prevalence in more affluent or high income families. So they're not really sure which is the main thing we're looking at here, but they're trying to have more ongoing research. Treatment typically is a combination of mental health counseling as well as a dietitian working with nutrient intake. Now, a second illness is going to be bulimia nervosa. This one also is a psychiatric illness where the individual eats large amounts of food and then purges. This purging could be from the form of vomiting, could be taking the form of taking laxatives to get things out of the system quicker. Quite often, these individuals, though, are normal weight. The difference here is because they're eating so much and then purging, they still have nutrients, but now they're starting to have potential damage to their esophagus. They're having damage to the tooth enamel because of all that stomach acid potentially coming out. Treatments here, again, same thing as with anorexia, looking at mental health counseling and a dietitian. Third one to go through is binge eating disorder. Now, in the case of binge eating disorder, an individual will overeat to the extreme at different times, but then other times eat normally. But the biggest thing here is they won't purge, There's no excessive exercise, and there's no fasting after this extreme amount of eating. So normal eating, then all of a sudden this huge binge eating, then normal eating again. By having this binge eating, it means most of these individuals are going to be overweight, if not obese, because of all the excessive amounts of calories they intake during the binges. This then means there's a risk of hypertension, diabetes type 2, chronic other cases, as well as cardiovascular disease. Pretty much everything that goes along with obesity. The treatments here are normally antidepressants, actually. But what's interesting, while it's an antidepressant medication is being prescribed, it's not classified as a psychiatric disorder. So it's kind of an interesting way of how they're using something that is for a psychiatric disorder to treat a non-psychiatric disorder. Moving on to the last one we're looking at in this grouping is orthorexia nervosa. Now, in the case of orthorexia nervosa, it's the fixation on eating healthy. The idea here is one part is usually looking at every food they ingest, is it healthy or not? But taking it to the extreme. Because a lot of times these individuals end up with extreme weight loss. They're not trying to, but it's because they're heavily restricting their food intake. They're heavily restricting the variety of food as well. Instead, they're obsessed with feeling pure, feeling free, feeling natural and healthy. The problem is, this takes it to an extreme obsession. They're not worried about losing weight. They're not worried about gaining weight. Just simply feeling pure, healthy, and feeling natural. So the diets here normally have a philosophy of more of a redemptive quality. The fact of, I'm not going to eat bad foods. But the problem is, it's not really easy to define what this orthorexia nervosa is because it hasn't had a set classification officially yet. So it's one of those things that's kind of circulating around in the different academic circles, but there's no one, this is what it is yet. So because it's not formally recognized, there is no formal criteria for it. But the biggest thing that is being shown here is the excessive obsession with eating healthy, trying to make sure that they eat healthy, but everyone around them should eat healthy also. But so much to the extreme that it's being detrimental to their health. They're always worried about if they ever do go out, that is there anything healthy to eat? Is there anything healthy to eat at the party? If there's something that they don't deem healthy, they just won't eat, which again can be damaging to their system. So typical signs or symptoms that have kind of been grouped into this disorder is going to be compulsively checking the labels. And no, it's a good idea to check here and there, but reading every word of every label, making sure you know every ingredient in every food you eat, making sure that you pull out the ingredients that you think are bad and not utilize those. So you always have this constant concern, is this ingredient a healthy ingredient or not? Also, then you can look into more of the cutting of different number of foods. And the more one person goes into this illness, the more foods they cut out because the more foods they believe are not healthy. So it's overall really obsessing to a high level, almost to an OCD or obsessive compulsive disorder level. And that's really not sure if this orthorexia nervosa is actually its own thing or actually a subset under OCD. But it doesn't matter which one of these we're talking about, anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, binge eating disorder, or the not quite defined orthorexia nervosa. All these take time. The healing, to help the body heal, to help the mind heal, is going to take time from all these. And it usually is a combination of treating the person's psychological states as well as treating their diet states. But working towards a balanced diet, working towards an adequate amount of vitamins and minerals, making sure they understand that balancing things out in a variety is healthy, but within limits of how much calories you ingest. Doing this, balancing a healthy, nutritious, varied diet, can help the healing process along. So a few of the other nutritional issues with malnourishment from this video.